Winner of last year's Best Director prize at the Cannes Film Festival, Grand Tour marked my introduction to the cinema of Portuguese auteur Miguel Gomes, a filmmaker whose work I had heard of in passing, reading the heaps of praise lauded on his films such as Taboo and the Arabian Nights triptych. I've heard many describe his films as very demanding experiences, and this new one is indeed a challenging watch, but is as rewarding and breathtaking as they come. The film largely functions as an extended travelogue in the vein of Chris Marker's Sans Soleil, in which the main characters travel from location to location, settings such as Thailand, Vietnam, the Philippines, Japan, and China. However, the film begins in 1917, in Rangoon, where our central character, a British civil servant named Edward, is awaiting the arrival of his fiancée, Molly, who is set to join him and finally wed him after their long gestating engagement. But Edward impulsively flees the Burmese capital, hopping on a boat to Singapore to evade this impending marriage, thus setting off the first of many stops in a meandering odyssey that finds him traveling across a series of Asian locales. The film is structured within two pieces, the first following Edward's anguished excursions, but in the second we chart Molly's pursuit of him, determined to track her fiancé down and reunite once and for all. This very jaunty cinematic expedition very easily could have played as empty indulgence in Orientalism, but Gomes instead presents us a myriad of ideas, all stationed within the colonial imagination. One of the many ways Gomes achieves this is his careful interweaving of the film's stylish black and white 16mm photography with contemporary documentary footage, shot some in color, some also in black and white. These images of an epic romance merged with material from its director's own wandering travels. Gomes uses this present-day non-fiction footage as a framing device of sorts to enliven his colonial-era black and white images, of which are largely shot on sound stages. From that, an artifice becomes baked into the very fabric of the narrative, offering a very playful approach to colonial storytelling. The voiceover narration running through a large chunk of the film is in the local language of whatever country Edward and Molly occupy, as if their story is a work of folklore known and being told throughout the lands. The classical studio sets are very clearly constructed, its many jungles mesmerizingly artificial, bathed in a dense fog so as to not see the seams. In the sequences set in the various cities, there are many purposeful anachronisms, as no effort was made to avoid evidence of contemporary life. The bustling city streets have the latest car models on the roads, people are using modern technologies, and towering skyscrapers stand out amidst the landscape shots. And not to mention a cheeky little thing where all of the British characters in the film speak Gomez's native tongue of Portuguese. It's well and truly a kaleidoscopic collage of languages and cultures, blending footage shot in different formats from across East Asia, lensed by three different cinematographers. Rui Pocas, a frequent collaborator of Gomes and fellow Portuguese auteur João Pedro Rodrigues, Gui Long, and the ever-prolific Thai maestro Sayambu Muktaprom, who is on one hell of a run right now. All of these elements make for a structure that is simultaneously loose and tight, a collapsing of past and present, of starts and restarts. As I mentioned earlier, the film is segmented into two separate accounts. The first, Edward's, is much more scatterbrained, tracing this bumbling man in his white suit as he flees from one country to another, coming across a reception for a Thai prince, meeting a monk in Japan, conversing with an opium addict in the jungle. It's entirely untethered in its approach to temporality, but does become a bit more focused when shifting to Molly's account of events at roughly the midpoint of the film, showing her always one step behind her love, zigzagging through the various people and places we saw Edward encounter earlier. Her side of the events play out in a more light register, allowing for the film to play around with a more breezy style and tone that nicely contrasts with Edward's own treacherous quest. Gomes is continually prompting us to connect each individual piece of this tour together. For some it will be a confusing, almost impenetrable watch, but for others its ephemeral nature will be utterly compelling. The way the film hops across space, time, and form brings shape to such a sweeping odyssey through not only the landscapes of East Asia, but also of colonial history and of cinema's relationship to the world. It's a film so keyed into the true wonders of discovery and adventure. An elderly character in the film says to Edward at one point to abandon yourself to the world and you'll see how generous it is to you. The world is so alive with possibility at every corner, and Gomes presents these moments of, say, a man singing Frank Sinatra's My Way at karaoke, dancing puppet shows, or carnival workers manually turning a flashing Ferris wheel as these touristic images of sorts, but one still so ripe with magic. Gomes is frequently vacillating between this tale of an unrequited love and reality with such an intoxicating flow, encouraging the viewer at every step to just let their imagination run rampant, and see beyond the very limited view of the world we have been so exposed to for so long. I really couldn't have imagined how much this film would speak to me, and I'm incredibly excited to eventually take myself on a grand tour through the cinema of Miguel Gomes. The way he shoots environments, those real and artificial, and how he reframes the post-colonial narrative in such playful, mesmerizing ways is so appealing to me. The film is just a real pleasure to sink into, and let its melange of places, languages, and stories sweep you right away.